What happens when Hollywood calm collides with daytime television fire? What happens when a man known for his measured pauses, his southern drawl, and his philosophy of living all right, all right, all right, steps onto a stage built for interruption, hot takes, and public confrontation? Before we begin, pause for just a second. Subscribe to Live Narratives, hit like, and comment right now because what unfolds next is not just an interview, it's a moment that television was never designed to contain. The lights inside the studio glow brighter than usual, bouncing off polished floors and camera lenses that have seen decades of tension, tears, and viral blow-ups. The audience buzzes with anticipation, that low electric hum that signals something unscripted is about to happen. At center stage sits the panel table of The View, a place where reputations have been challenged and tempers tested in real time. The hosts shuffle their notes, smile for the cameras, and prepare for what they believe will be another spirited but manageable conversation. Then he walks out. Matthew McConaughey doesn't rush. He never does. His stride is unhurried, confident without being loud, eyes scanning the room as if he's already listening before anyone speaks. The audience erupts into applause, some standing, some cheering, because he represents something rare in modern celebrity culture: calm, thoughtfulness, control. He nods, presses his palms together briefly in gratitude, and takes a seat, crossing one leg over the other like a man settling into a long conversation rather than a televised debate. Across the table, Joy Behar adjusts her glasses, a half-smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. She has done this for years. She knows the rhythm of confrontation. She knows how to push without appearing to shove. To the audience, this is just another guest, another conversation. But something in the air suggests otherwise. The introduction ends. The pleasantries fade. The cameras tighten. "So, Matthew," Joy begins, her voice light but pointed, "you've been speaking a lot lately about responsibility, leadership, and let's call it moral clarity." Matthew smiles, slow and easy. "I have," he says softly. "I think clarity's something we're all looking for right now." The audience murmurs in agreement. A safe start. Too safe. Joy leans back slightly, folding her arms. Some people say that sounds a lot like politics without calling it politics. The room stills. Matthew doesn't interrupt. He waits. That pause, just a second too long for daytime TV, forces everyone to lean in. Well, he finally says, "I think when people hear the word politics, they hear division. I'm talking about values. That's older than any party." A few claps ripple through the crowd. The camera cuts to Joy. Her eyebrow lifts. "But values," she counters, "are exactly what's being fought over. And when someone with your influence talks about them, whether you like it or not, it becomes political." Matthew nods, absorbing the words rather than deflecting them. "Influence is a responsibility," he replies. "And responsibility doesn't mean shouting. Sometimes it means slowing down." That's when the tension begins to rise. Not explosive, not yet, but like a pressure system forming beneath the surface. Joy shifts forward now, sensing an opening. Slowing down, she says, can also look like avoiding hard stances. The audience reacts, some gasps, some applause. Matthew's expression doesn't change, but something sharp flickers behind his eyes. He inhales deeply, as if grounding himself. "I don't avoid hard stances," he says calmly. "I avoid easy answers." The words land heavier than expected. For a moment, even Joy is silent. The studio feels smaller, tighter, as though the walls themselves are listening. Joy breaks the pause with a short laugh. "That sounds nice," she says, "but people don't live in philosophy books. They live in reality." Matthew leans forward now, elbows resting lightly on the table. His voice lowers, but the microphones catch every syllable. "Reality's exactly why I speak the way I do. Because real people are tired of being talked at. They want to be talked with." A wave of applause sweeps through the audience, louder this time. The energy shifts. This is no longer a friendly exchange. This is a clash of styles, fire versus stillness, urgency versus patience. Joy presses on. "But don't you think calm can be a luxury?" she asks. "Some people don't have time for it." Matthew's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. I think calm is a necessity, he replies, especially for people who've been denied it. The audience erupts, half cheering, half stunned. The other hosts glance at one another, sensing they've crossed into unpredictable territory. This isn't the heated shouting match viewers expect. It's something more unsettling. Measured, thoughtful, unmovable. Joy tilts her head, studying him. So you're saying anger isn't justified? Matthew shakes his head slowly.
No, ma'am.
I'm saying anger's understandable, but it's not always useful. The silence that follows is heavy, not awkward, intentional. Even Joy seems momentarily unsure how to respond. The calm didn't defuse the tension. It sharpened it. And as the cameras roll, as millions watch from their homes, one thing becomes clear. This is not going to explode the way anyone expected. It's going to burn slow. And the slow burn has only just begun. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It lingers in the studio like humidity before a storm. The kind you can feel on your skin, but can't quite explain. The other hosts exchange subtle glances, unsure whether to jump in or let the current carry itself forward. The producers behind the cameras are already whispering into headsets. This isn't following the usual rhythm. Joy leans back again, studying Matthew McConaughey as if recalculating. She's faced politicians, activists, actors with rehearsed talking points. But this deliberate stillness is harder to dismantle. Let me ask you directly, she says, her voice tightening just slightly. When you speak about unity and responsibility, are you implying that people who are louder, who are more confrontational, are somehow wrong? A murmur ripples through the audience. This is the pivot, the moment where tone becomes test. Matthew doesn't rush to fill the silence. He clasps his hands loosely in front of him, thumb rubbing slowly against his knuckle, a subtle grounding gesture. When he speaks, his voice is even. I'm not implying anybody's wrong, he says. I'm saying there are different tools for different problems. Joy's lips press into a thin line. And you believe your tool is better? The audience inhales collectively. Matthew's gaze doesn't waver. I believe mine works for me. A few claps. A few scoffs. The divide is audible. Joy pivots again. You've criticized what you call outrage culture. Some would say outrage is what forces change. There it is. The spark. Matthew nods slowly. Outrage can shine a light, he says. But it doesn't always build the house. A sharp reaction from the crowd. Half applause, half uncomfortable shifting. Joy seizes on it. But without that light, she counters, leaning forward now, there is no house. People are angry because they've been ignored. When someone with your platform says, calm down, it can sound dismissive. Matthew's eyes soften. Not defensive, but serious. I've never told anyone to calm down, he says gently. I've said let's not lose ourselves while we're fighting. The audience quiets again. The weight of that sentence hangs in the air. Joy crosses her arms. Isn't that easy to say from a position of privilege? A collective "oh" moves through the studio. For the first time, Matthew's jaw tightens visibly. Not anger, resolve. Privilege, he repeats quietly. You mean success? I mean safety, Joy replies quickly.
There's no laughter now.
No applause. Just stillness. Matthew takes a breath, deeper than before. Safety isn't something I take lightly, he says. And I know not everybody has it. But tearing each other apart on television isn't going to create it. The words are calm, but they carry an edge. Joy raises an eyebrow. Are you suggesting this show tears people apart? The camera zooms slightly. The audience stiffens. Matthew pauses again. That pause. It's driving everyone just slightly mad. I'm suggesting, he says carefully, that sometimes we mistake volume for progress. A few audience members clap loudly. Others remain silent. The split is visible now, some nodding, some shaking their heads. Joy's tone sharpens. Volume is sometimes the only way marginalized voices are heard. And once they're heard, Matthew asks quietly. Joy blinks. What do you mean? Once they're heard, he repeats. What happens next? Do we listen back? Or do we just keep shouting? The studio feels smaller with every exchange. Even the other hosts are sitting straighter, eyes darting between them. Joy exhales through her nose. You're framing this like passion is a problem. No, Matthew says almost immediately. I'm saying passion without direction burns everything down, including the people holding the match. The line lands like a thunderclap. There's a pause so long it almost feels like dead air. Producers shift uncomfortably behind the scenes. Social media teams are already clipping the exchange in real time. Joy breaks the silence, her voice now less sharp, more probing. So, what's your solution? Matthew leans back slightly. Conversation, he says, not performance. That word hits differently. Performance. The implication is subtle, but unmistakable. Joy's eyes narrow. Are you saying this is a performance? Matthew shakes his head. I'm saying when cameras are involved, it's easy to forget we're talking to human beings. A ripple of applause. Louder this time. Joy lets out a short laugh, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Matthew, this is television. Cameras are the point. He nods. Then let's use them to build something instead of breaking it. The audience claps again, more unified now. The temperature in the room shifts slightly in his favor. Joy notices. Of course she does. So, she says, folding her hands neatly on the table, if you were sitting in this seat, what would you ask differently? The question is a challenge wrapped in curiosity. Matthew smiles faintly. I'd ask what scares you, he says. Joy blinks, caught off guard. Excuse me? I'd ask what keeps you up at night, he continues. Not what makes you angry. What makes you afraid? The room goes silent again, but this time, it's not tense. It's reflective. Joy's composure falters just slightly. Fear isn't what drives me, she says quickly. Everybody's driven by something, Matthew replies, voice soft. Anger's loud. Fear's quiet. The audience is no longer divided. They're listening. Joy shifts in her seat. For the first time, she doesn't immediately counter. There's a flicker, just a flicker, of something human beneath the broadcast persona. You think I'm afraid? She asks. I think we all are, Matthew says simply. The silence that follows is different from the others. Not combative. Not charged. Vulnerable. Even the studio lights seem less harsh. But vulnerability on live television is dangerous territory. Joy straightens her posture, reclaiming control. Or maybe, she says carefully, some of us are just tired of waiting. Matthew nods, slowly. That's fair. No sarcasm. No edge. Just acknowledgement. The tension hasn't disappeared. It's transformed. What started as a clash is becoming something more complicated, less about winning, more about exposure. Not of scandal, but of philosophy. And as the segment edges toward its midpoint, one thing is undeniable. This isn't the explosive meltdown viewers expected. It's something far more unsettling. Two worldviews. Neither backing down. Neither raising their voice. And the fire is still burning. The cameras cut to a brief wide shot, capturing the entire table, the audience, the glowing sign of the view hanging above it all like a quiet judge. The moment feels suspended, as if time itself is deciding which way this conversation will fall. The commercial break looms, but no one in the studio is thinking about ads. Joy shifts in her chair, fingers tapping once against the table. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there. You talk about waiting, she says, her voice measured now, less sharp than before. Some people have been waiting their entire lives. Matthew McConaughey nods, slowly, respectfully. I don't doubt that for a second. And yet, Joy continues, you ask for patience. I ask for purpose, Matthew replies. There's a difference. The audience leans forward as one. This isn't debate anymore. It's dissection. Joy tilts her head. Purpose according to who? Matthew smiles faintly. According to us. Together. She exhales, almost a scoff. That sounds idealistic. Most things worth building are, he says. A few soft claps ripple through the crowd. Joy's gaze hardens, not in anger, but in focus. You've played heroes on screen. Leaders. Men with clear moral arcs. Do you think that shapes how people hear you? Like you're lecturing from a role? Matthew chuckles quietly, shaking his head. If folks confuse me with a character I played, that's on me for not being clear enough. But you do know the power of narrative. Joy presses. You're a storyteller. That I am, he agrees. And stories work best when they leave room for the audience to decide what matters. Joy gestures to the crowd. This audience doesn't want riddles. They want answers. Matthew glances around the studio, eyes sweeping over faces of all ages. I think they want honesty more than answers. A woman in the front row nods vigorously. Another crosses her arms, unconvinced. Joy leans in again. So be honest. Do you think anger is hurting the country? Matthew doesn't respond immediately. His shoulders rise and fall with a slow breath. I think unmanaged anger hurts people, he says finally. And hurt people. A collective reaction. Some applause, some murmurs. Joy's lips press together. That's a nice phrase. It's a true one, Matthew replies gently. She looks at him for a long moment. The studio feels like it's holding its breath. You sound, Joy says carefully, like someone who believes the system can still work. Matthew nods. I believe people can still work. Joy laughs softly, but there's no humor in it. That faith is rare. It's a choice, he says. And it takes effort. Joy glances toward the other hosts, then back to him. Effort from who? From all of us, Matthew says. Especially the ones with microphones. The line hits. Hard. The audience erupts into applause. Longer this time, more unified. One of the hosts shifts uncomfortably, adjusting her notes, as if suddenly aware of the weight of her own words. Joy waits for the noise to die down. When it does, her tone shifts lower, more personal. You ever feel like you're talking into the void? She asks. Matthew's smile fades slightly. All the time. And you still keep going? He nods. Because somebody's always listening, even if they don't clap. The audience quiets, reflective. Joy looks down at her hands for a brief second. When she looks back up, her voice is softer. You think this kind of conversation actually changes anything? Matthew leans forward, elbows on the table again. It already has. Joy raises an eyebrow. How so? Because we're still here, he says. And we haven't turned each other into villains. The words land with unexpected weight. Joy's mouth opens slightly, then closes. She exhales a long breath. You know people online are going to tear this apart. Matthew smiles faintly. They always do. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with not controlling it, he says. I can only control how I show up. The audience applauds again, softer but sincere. Joy straightens, reclaiming a bit of her familiar sharpness. So, you don't care what people say? Matthew shakes his head. I care. I just don't obey. That line sends a ripple through the crowd, some cheers, a few audible wow-s. Joy lets out a short laugh, this time more genuine. You're good at this, she admits. At listening, he asks. At deflecting, she says. He grins. Sometimes they look the same. The tension eases just enough for humor to slip through, but it doesn't dissolve. It reshapes. Joy glances toward the camera, aware of the millions watching. People want certainty, she says. They want to know where you stand. Matthew nods. I stand for conversations that don't end with somebody losing their dignity. The audience applauds, loud, sustained. Joy blinks, absorbing it. Even if that means never taking a hard side? Matthew's expression grows serious again. I take sides all the time. I just don't dehumanize the other one. Silence. Not a sound from the audience. Not a cough. Not a shuffle. Joy looks at him, really looks at him now, not as a guest, not as a talking point, but as a person across the table. And what if the other side doesn't offer the same courtesy? She asks quietly. Matthew doesn't hesitate. Then I still show up as the man I want to be. That answer hangs in the air, heavy and unresolved. The producer's voice crackles faintly in the host's earpieces. Time is slipping. The segment is nearing its end, but the conversation feels unfinished. Dangerously so. Joy nods slowly. You're asking for a lot from people. Matthew nods back. I know. The camera pulls in tighter, capturing both of them in the same frame. 2 chairs. 1 table. No shouting. No walk-offs. Just a collision of beliefs that refuses to explode. And somehow, that makes it even more intense. Because everyone can feel it now. The hardest part is still coming. The studio clock keeps ticking, its red digits invisible to the audience at home, but impossible to ignore behind the scenes. Producers gesture subtly. Wrap it up. Move on. But the energy at the table refuses to be rushed. Joy Behar sits a little straighter, as if bracing herself, not for an argument, but for something more exposed. Her voice, when she speaks again, carries a weight that wasn't there before. You know, she says, people expect me to push. That's my role. Matthew McConaughey nods. And you do it well. She smirks faintly. Careful. That almost sounded like praise. It was, he replies simply. The audience chuckles, the tension easing for half a breath before tightening again. Joy's eyes narrow slightly, thoughtful rather than defensive. But pushing comes from somewhere. It's not just performance. Matthew leans back, giving her space. I believe that. She exhales. I've watched this country argue itself into corners. And sometimes, calm feels like surrender. A murmur rolls through the crowd. Matthew's expression softens. Calm doesn't mean quiet, he says. It means steady. Joy tilts her head. And what if steady gets ignored? Then you get steadier, he replies. A few audience members laugh softly. Others clap. Joy shakes her head. You make it sound simple. It's simple, Matthew says. Not easy. The room absorbs that. Joy glances down the table, then back at him. Do you ever worry that your approach lets people off the hook? Matthew pauses. The familiar silence returns, but this one feels heavier, more personal. I worry about that, he admits. I also worry about what happens when we only know how to punish. The audience quiets completely. Joy's voice drops. Some people deserve punishment. Some do, Matthew agrees. But everybody deserves a path back. The words settle deep. A few heads in the audience nod slowly. One woman wipes at her eye. Joy presses her lips together. You're asking for grace. I'm asking for growth, he replies. The distinction lands. Joy leans forward again, elbows on the table now, mirroring his posture from earlier. The body language shift doesn't go unnoticed. You think we've forgotten how to grow? She asks. Matthew meets her gaze. I think we've forgotten how to listen long enough to try. Applause breaks out, strong, sustained, almost reverent. Joy lets it wash over the studio, then raises a hand gently, quieting the crowd. She looks at Matthew with a mixture of challenge and curiosity. You know people are going to say you won this. Matthew smiles faintly. I don't keep score. She huffs a small laugh. That's convenient. It's necessary, he says. Joy's smile fades, replaced by something more reflective. You're calm because you believe there's still time. Matthew nods. As long as we're breathing, there is. Joy looks away for a second, blinking more than necessary. When she looks back, her voice is steadier, but softer. And if there isn't, Matthew's answer comes quietly. Then how we treated each other will matter even more. The audience is silent now. Not because they're stunned, but because they're moved. Joy sits back slowly. You know, she says, I didn't expect this conversation to go here. Neither did I, Matthew replies. She glances at the camera, then back at him. Do you think people at home feel seen by this? Matthew smiles gently. I hope they feel invited.
Joy nods, absorbing that.
Invited to what? To talk, he says. Not to win. The producer's signal becomes more urgent. 30 seconds. Joy inhales, then exhales. I'll say this, she begins, choosing her words carefully. I still disagree with you on some things. Matthew nods. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. A ripple of laughter. But Joy continues. I respect the way you showed up. Matthew inclines his head. That means a lot. The audience applauds again. Warm, appreciative, unified. Joy turns fully toward him now. If more people argued like this, we might actually get somewhere. Matthew smiles, eyes crinkling. That's the dream. The clock runs out. The segment is ending. Joy faces the camera. When we come back, she stops, pauses, then looks back at Matthew one last time. Thank you, she says quietly. For the conversation, he replies. The cameras pull back. The applause swells. The lights feel brighter somehow. But beneath the politeness, beneath the smiles, something profound has shifted. This wasn't a clash that ended in victory. It was a collision that left a mark. And as the show fades toward commercial, one truth lingers in the studio. Sometimes the loudest impact comes from refusing to raise your voice. And outside those walls, far beyond the applause, the reaction is already beginning to spread. The applause inside the studio fades, but the moment doesn't. As the cameras cut away, something unusual happens. No one rushes to stand. The audience lingers in their seats, clapping slower now, as if afraid that moving too quickly might break what just occurred. A few people look at each other, strangers sharing the same unspoken thought. Did that really just happen? Joy Behar exhales, longer than she is all morning. The tension that once sat in her shoulders eases, replaced by something quieter. She reaches for her mug, takes a sip, and sets it down without a joke. Across the table, Matthew McConaughey nods politely to the other hosts, thanking them with his eyes more than his words. There is no victory lap, no smug smile, just presence. As the audience begins to file out, whispers fill the air. That wasn't what I expected. He didn't yell once. She didn't either, not really. Backstage, producers scroll through monitors as clips are already being uploaded in real time. One quote loops again and again. I care. I just don't obey. Another. Sometimes we mistake volume for progress. The social media team exchanges looks. They know it when they see it. This is going viral. Within minutes, phones across the country light up. Short clips circulate on X, Instagram, TikTok. Comment sections ignite, not with insults at first, but with debate. He destroyed her without raising his voice. No, she challenged him, and he actually listened. Why can't more conversations be like this? This is what real dialogue looks like. Hashtags begin to form. Some praise Joy for holding her ground. Others hail Matthew for his composure. A few try to turn it into sides, but even they struggle. There was no knockout punch, no meltdown, no walk-off, just tension, just honesty, just restraint. Media outlets scramble to frame it. Matthew McConaughey stuns daytime TV with calm defiance. Joy Behar faces an unexpected opponent, silence. The View delivers its most uncomfortable and human moment in years. Pundits argue about who won, but the conversation keeps slipping out of their grip. Because the audience didn't see a win, they saw something rarer. They saw two people disagree without erasing each other. By evening, long-form clips rack up millions of views. Commenters share personal stories about family arguments, friendships lost, conversations that turned into shouting matches. Some admit they came in ready to hate one side and left questioning themselves instead. That's the part no algorithm knows how to measure. Joy Behar, later that night, is asked about it in a follow-up interview. She pauses before answering. He didn't give me what I expected, she says. And maybe that's the point. Matthew McConaughey posts nothing flashy. No quotes. No victory statements. Just a quiet photo of a sunrise with a simple caption about listening more than talking. The internet, for once, doesn't know what to do with that. And that's why it matters. Because in a world trained to crave explosions, this moment refused to detonate. It smoldered instead.
Slow.
Uncomfortable. Lingering. And people are still talking. Now it's your turn. What did you feel watching this unfold? Was Matthew right to stay calm? Did Joy ask the questions everyone was afraid to? Did this change how you see public confrontation, Or did it just prove how rare real conversation has become? Tell us in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you want more moments like this, more cinematic breakdowns of real-time clashes, unspoken tension, and the stories that live between the headlines, subscribe to Live Narratives right now. Because the loudest stories aren't always the ones that scream. Sometimes they're the ones that stay with you long after the cameras stop rolling.